You can find the product featured in today's video and many more at Dan's Dinosaurs. Check out his site at the link in the description below, and be sure to mention that Killer Shrew Fan sent you. Now, on to the review. Hello everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. As always, instead of a romantic outing to celebrate the holiday, I will be talking about dinosaur toys for a niche group of viewers on my YouTube channel. But just because I do not have a beautiful person to spend today with does not mean I am not in the company of beauty. Because as it turns out, today I'm going to be taking a look at Rosana the Miragaia by PNSO. This was yet another pleasant surprise to come out of the seemingly unending onslaught of different offerings from PNSO. There really aren't many offerings of this unique animal in model form, and one of them is basically obsolete now to boot. So when I saw that PNSO would be coming out with a new one, I was instantly excited, and that's before we even get into how striking the figure itself is. I mean, with all of the releases PNSO have been giving us, you can't imagine it might be hard to stand out amongst their lineup, but I think it's safe to say that Rosana here stands out in spades. I mean, all of their reveals have looked pretty cool on first impressions, but few of them ever elicited a verbal response from me. The Lambeosaurus got some oohs, Winter Wilson got some claps, Domingo got cheers, but Rosana here is the only one that got a wow out of me. Everything about its appearance is so striking in the promo images, and now that I have one, I am happy to report that it looks just as lovely in person, and I'm super excited to take a closer look at it right here and right now for you guys. But first things first, we gotta have a look at the packaging. Same story as ever with the PNSO prehistoric line. You have got the blank white background framing the glamour shots of the Paintmaster on both sides of the box. The orange PNSO logo is located on the top left corner, mixing it up a bit I see, with the species name and pet name in English and Chinese. You can see also that Rosana here is number 39 in the ever-growing line of prehistoric PNSO critters. The top of the box gives us another angle of the Paintmaster, as well as the PNSO logo once again, along with the company's tagline of "Every life deserves respect." And just like in every other PNSO figure, this one comes with the standard booklet that contains a little information about the company, as well as a kids-friendly introduction to Rosana the Miragaia. But that is enough about the packaging. Let's get to Rosana. As always, gotta start off with a nice 360-degree view, and man, does this model ever have presence. It isn't big by any means, but it has absolutely no issue drawing your gaze and commanding your attention. There's no other word to describe it besides stunning, which for a dinosaur whose name means wonderful Earth Mother is quite appropriate. Now the first thing you're prone to notice would be the plates, and we're going to talk about that, but first we need to take a look at the head. So you can see right off the bat that this is a gorgeous head sculpt with an absolute ton of varied detail. I love the slightly downturned skull and larger scales adorning the snout. The beak is treated very well despite its small size, with a little bit of brown paint to separate it from the rest of the head. The eyes are done in a flat black coloration, which, I don't know, I never really care for. It just robs the figure of so much character in my opinion, and I think it's particularly underwhelming on this particular model. I like the idea of the pink around the eyes, but the application is a bit garish on mine. And in regards to paint, I'm kinda missing some around the line of the mouth to sort of separate the upper and lower mandible. I know that all of that might have sounded pretty negative, but beyond that, I think this is another wonderful head sculpt from PNSO, perfectly capturing that stegosaur appearance, and I never expected anything different. Now, as we move down that wonderfully long neck, seriously, that's impressive. You can see those larger armored scales adorning the length of the throat, as well as the several neck plates that begin just behind the head. I counted 30 from just past the skull until you reach the shoulder. And speaking of shoulder, you can see some absolutely gorgeous skin detail at the base of the neck as wrinkles bunch up with the slight right curve of the craning neck. Honestly, I think this is some of the best detail work on a PNSO figure to date. Like I said, you have the wonderful skin and wrinkle work around the arms, gut, and pulling away from the back right leg, but then you have also got these very fine but well-defined scales adorning the entire surface area, as well as some osteoderm sprinkled throughout. You can see that around the base of the spikes that these scales even grow larger for more variation. It's an absolutely gorgeous level of work. I know sometimes this level of texture can be a bit distracting or feel inorganic, but there is never a moment on this figure where the detail work feels gaudy. It is simply beautiful from every possible angle. One thing I'm not a huge fan of, though, would be the boxy build of the hips. It kind of has a clunky look to it, but that's a small grievance to say the least. The overall impression of this model is staggeringly wonderful. The arms and legs are also very well handled. They're a perfect mix of gracile and robust, with some lovely muscle forms flexing and adorning the almost delicate extent of the limbs. The way the muscles are flexing and the skin is pulling or buckling all feels so believable in its presentations. The elbows and kneecaps look fantastic, and you can see that the toe claws are done in a sort of grayish brown, although I will admit the coloration on mine seems to be a bit hit and miss. Moving along the underbelly, you can get a good look at those armored scales on the elongated neck, and you can see that they shrink down in size as you hit the midsection, and you get the finer, more chainmail-like scales in their place. The PNSO logo can be found down here as well, and you have got the slightest indication of a cloaca on this figure at the base of the tail. Now let's talk about the focal piece of this sculpt, the spikes. Oh my gosh, these things are gorgeous. Now, I know very little about Miragaia, but I understand that there have been some developments to its look thanks to the Miragaia project, which you can check out and follow on Facebook, but even the skeletal diagram they present on the page didn't have this level of pointiness. So I really don't know what to make of PNSO's latest offering and would appreciate some pointers below. Honestly though, I don't even care how speculative it may or may not be. I think the look is objectively awesome, and you can see that the detail on them is amazing. You've got all of these little striations and cracks that feel so appropriate and lifelike, especially down on the Thagomizer, which has a very weathered and lived-in look to it. I think some washes would have helped those details be a bit more noticeable. But I will say the paint that we got on these plates is phenomenal, with the dark brown tips transitioning seamlessly into the yellow middles and orange bases. It looks like this dinosaur is carrying the sun on its back. That's how visually striking they are. They could even be likened to the petals of a sunflower to tie into the whole Earth Mother thing. Just as a side note, I'd like to point out that the spikes on this figure are considerably softer than some of the points on other recent PNSO dinosaurs. They're still pointy, but with a little more give than we've seen before, which for display purposes is comforting to know that the thinner structures won't be damaged if it takes a tumble off of the shelf. As far as the pose goes, elegant, simple, lifelike. Rosana is in mid-stride with her right arm forward as her neck cranes up and slightly to the right, really showing off that distinguishing feature in a graceful and enjoyable manner. Let's talk about paint. I've already talked about how gorgeous the color on the plates is, and the rest of the body is no different. You can see that the orange from the plates carries down onto the dorsal region before transitioning into the golden colors of the flanks and creams and browns of the underbelly and around the limbs. Brown stripes run from the back of the head down to the tail and onto the legs and arms of the animal, providing some lovely breakup to the beautiful base coloration. It's a wonderful color scheme that's been gorgeously applied. I have two very small issues with it, the first being how familiar it is. We've seen this paint job twice before in PNSO's latest lineup alone, with both the Spinosaurus and Machairoceratops leading me to question how much thought is going into designing the color schemes of these figures. And that's kind of my other issue with this offering. For an animal whose name means what it does, this is one where I would have liked to see more earth tones, perhaps saving the warmer tones for the plates alone. Now that's picky, and and maybe even a bit cliched. But even if I would have preferred something a little different, Rosana is probably the best example of this color scheme on a PNSO dinosaur yet, outdoing the underwhelming applications of the Machairoceratops and even the beautiful work of the Spinosaurus. I know PNSO often gets flack for having misleading promo images, but this figure feels like it's pretty close to what we were promised, and that's worth celebrating. Let's move on to some measurements. Rosana here comes in at 8¼ inches long, or roughly 21 centimeters, and stands in at just under 3½ inches, or 9 centimeters, off the ground at the top of the tallest spikes. Miragaia is estimated to be 18 to 20 feet long, which would put Rosana here in that 1/27th to 1/30th scale range. For size comparison, let's start off with the only other Miragaia in my collection. It's the out-of-production Carnegie Collection offering, and I know that this figure has become somewhat sought after in recent years. But honestly, if you're having a hard time finding one, I say there's no reason to not just put your money towards Rosana here. I guess it is fun to see PNSO's more extreme take posed next to the more conservative approach of Carnegie's offering, but that's not exactly a strong basis for hunting down an out-of-production dinosaur toy. And next up here is Rosana with some other PNSO stegosaurs. First up, we have the massive Chungkingosaurus. This is one of their earlier offerings and still one of their best in my eyes. And it sort of has a color scheme I would more associate with Miragaia, with an earthy body and more vibrant plates. Just some food for thought though, but this also highlights an earlier point I had. You can see that Rosana is dwarfed by that big guy, yet still manages to draw your attention. And now here it is with 2019 Stegosaurus Bieber, which seems to be widely accepted as one of PNSO's weakest offerings. I don't know, I never hated that figure. I thought it was nice to have a smoother offering from PNSO, but when I look at them side by side, yeah, there's no contest here. And let's keep the Stegosaurus train rolling with the Safari Ltd 2019 Stegosaurus Sophie, a beautiful update to the most famous stegosaur of all time. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the one a lot of people have, making it the most useful for size comparisons. And for a final Stegosaurus comparison, here it is with Rebor's Stegosaurus Garden, the mountain variant, and you can see that this massive beast of a Stegosaurus dwarfs Rosana here. Now let's get into some other PNSO comparisons, starting off with the most recently reviewed on the channel, Ashu the Chianzusaurus. And you can see that Ashu stands ever so slightly taller than Rosana, but I think it's safe to say that he is not nearly as visually striking as she is. And next up we have Domingo the Carnotaurus, who stands quite a bit taller than Rosana and also shares a similar warm color aesthetic. Now Carnotaurus is my favorite dinosaur, but I think I would be hard pressed to say that Rosana was not the more gorgeous offering between these two. And then of course we have Essien 2.0, the Spinosaurus, who was really the trendsetter for this particular color palette from PNSO, and you can see just how similar Rosana is to him aesthetically speaking. Still, I think Rosana perfected the formula with her color scheme here, so PNSO, if you're watching this, no need to try that one again. You already struck oil here with Rosana. Next up, we've got the gold standard PNSO comparison. It's the third version of the original Wilson mold, and you know, I don't really have a beef with that sculpt, but I think it's safe to say that PNSO have seen some improvement to their approach over the years when it comes to crafting these figures. And for a final comparison, here is Rosana with the massive PNSO Huanga Titan, and you know, that thing is an enormous beast. But even with how small she is next to him, Rosana manages to not get lost in his shadow. And that was the PNSO Miragaia Rosana. If I haven't said it enough, this is an immaculate figure. The sculpt is gorgeous and striking, with some of the best skin detail work I've seen from PNSO to date, and the color scheme is bold and eye-catching, if a little familiar. I don't know what more you could want in a stegosaur figure, especially if you're hunting for a Miragaia at the moment. Honestly, I think you can stop hunting for the Carnegie offering because Rosana here should be everything you need and more. The last two stegosaurs PNSO did may have been a bit underwhelming, but they really brought it with this one. And because of that, this model gets a dynamite rating. As always, I want to know what you guys guys think of this figure? Do you own it yet? Are you planning on picking it up? What is your favorite Miragaia model out there? And what Stegosaur do you hope PNSO will do next? Drop a comment down below on your way out. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's review, especially if you're keeping your Valentine's Day date waiting while you take in some dino content. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Until then, have a happy Valentine's Day, be sure to enjoy some chocolate, and take care out there. Killer Shrew Fan, out.